For more on all of this, we're now joined by Shai Franklin. He's a Middle East analyst and a former executive of the World Jewish Congress. He's here in studio with us, and we welcome back John Sidelides, geopolitical strategist at Trilogy Advisors. Thank you both. And Shai, the leaders of Hamas and Fatah, they may not be swayed by economic development and economic aid, but what about the people in Gaza? Should they get word that their lives could be dramatically improved with this economic aid and development, assuming it actually goes to them and not to the Hamas terror infrastructure as it has in the past, do you see them perhaps putting some kind of collective pressure on leadership to go for this?
On several levels, I don't. First of all, Hamas is not exactly a liberal democracy. So you're not going to see widespread demonstrations against Hamas. On another level, over 20 years ago, there was already an international effort to get economic development and business investment in Gaza as part of the Oslo Madrid process and the Oslo process. There's no reason to wait for some special peace plan, some magic peace plan to start doing this.
Well, why did that economic development fail?
It didn't all fail, but what happened is the process broke down, and then there were security problems. And there was an embargo, and then Israel pulled out, Israel disengaged from Gaza. There's all kinds of other issues. But now with the ceasefire, maybe there's an opportunity to start some economic projects on the ground with or without a peace plan.
John, what do you think? Is this plan dead on arrival, or are economic incentives enough to jumpstart something, or is it all irrelevant when you don't have a peace partner on the other side, as many in the Israeli camp would argue?
Well, it could very well be a combination of all of these factors that you cite, Michelle. And I think there's one more thing that we need to be very careful about here in Washington, D.C. We here and our European counterparts tend to be very rationalistic in our approach to diplomacy, and we sometimes overlook the power of religion and other cultural symbols. And I think it's going to be very difficult, so short a period after the Trump administration recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, to bring the Palestinians to the table. I mean, Mahmoud Abbas won't even see any American diplomat at any level and refuses to countenance any single American document regarding a peace process. So he's already cut himself out of the loop. So if he's not even interested in a discussion with Americans, I don't think the timing is right for the foreseeable future. And the passions hopefully will be able to be cooled down, let alone what happens over the Gaza attacks from Hamas into Israel.
Shai, it's not clear yet, but there are indications that this plan, and again, it's speculation, but it seems like this plan could deal with Hamas and Gaza separately from Abbas and the West Bank. I mean, this is something that Abbas objects to, obviously, because it detracts from his authority. But many have made the case that you need to have a peace deal that includes Hamas. Otherwise, what good is it if there's no guarantee of security coming from Hamas? What do you think of this approach of perhaps dealing with Hamas and Fatah separately?
Well, if you're dealing with them separate, you can deal with them together and still have Hamas included. By separating them,
well, there's no agreement between Fatah and Hamas to be on the same page, so that's always been the obstacle.
It's a chicken and egg situation. Israel has an advantage. If you watch the Knesset debate, sometimes you might see it as liability, but it's an advantage that Israel exists as a state. It has a unitary government. It has rule of law, due process, and regular elections. The Palestinians don't have that. The Palestinians don't actually control much of their territory.
Because of the system of government,
well, for whatever reasons, but that's their situation. So Hamas and Fatah and the Palestinians generally as a polity, as a political entity, haven't really come into their own yet. The peace process for Israel is about defining its borders and setting itself up for the long term. For the Palestinians, the peace process they're still creating their state. That's part of creating their state. So to say we're going to wait until they get it together, then nothing will ever happen. If we try to do it separately, then what we could end up having, which for many Israelis would be, let's call it not ideal, but optimal, would be Gaza is split off and somehow contained, and it connects to Egypt and to the rest of the world, maybe, and the West Bank becomes effectively part of Israel.
John, approaching the situation separately, could that be a possible way forward?
I don't know that that's doable as long as Iran is the primary funder of Hamas. And so the Arab allies in the region that have a number of interests, they are increasingly sharing with Israel, especially Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, and obviously Egypt, could lean on al-Fatah to move in a certain direction with Israel. I don't know how that works with the Palestinian people between the Palestine Authority controlled area now and Gaza. But Iran is the primary mover in Gaza right now, and especially the fact that the Palestinian Authority isn't even paying salaries of Hamas government bureaucrats any longer. So as long as we exclude Iran from the equation, I don't see how we're ever going to effectively control the developments inside of Gaza.
Interesting. Are you very quickly suggesting that Iran should be involved in these negotiations?
No, I'm saying that there'll really be no solution that involves Hamas or Gaza as long as Iran is the primary funder and driver of political developments there.
Absolutely. John Sidelides, thank you so much. Shai Franklin, appreciate it. Thanks for your time.